Ryan, great to have you here today ahead of the Irish Derby, of course, Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby. It's a wonderful race with a great history.
Yeah, no, over the years, I remember as a kid growing up watching Frankie win on Balanchine and the like, and then you see the likes of Mondieu and then obviously Galileo came along not long after him, and been plenty of champions that have won this race and gone on to greater things.
Indeed, and Galileo, of course, had a big bearing in your career riding for Aidan O'Brien.
Yeah, obviously he's been the best stallion of the last decade and a half, isn't he? And I've been very lucky to ride many of his sons and daughters.
Indeed, and Ryan, the Curragh, it's obviously a natural track. It's got a great history. It's a couple of hundred years old. In comparison to what you're used to riding in Asia, it's a natural track, not a man-made track. How do you explain to people, how does it ride?
The mile and a half at the Curragh, it actually, especially on Derby Day, it's a very fast track. You know, the Curragh it's a big open track. They can move the rails an awful lot, but Derby Day, it's always at its innermost configuration, and it's always tighter and it rides fast. It's a bit undulating, as you say. It's man-made, and drainage, there isn't any of that. But middle of summer, really, it's usually nice ground. But like the Curragh is a very fair track usually, and it is a test of stamina, but they do have to have speed here. They do have to get a position, and they do have to travel, and they do have to pick up.
And on that getting a position, I always thought it's a bit of a reminder. It's quite a short run to the first bend, and just getting out of stall is quite important.
Yeah, absolutely. You're turning quite a lot down the back, and once you're kind of in your position, it's hard to change it, because if you do, you get pushed wider and wider. And as I say, the rail's tight on that day, and it can be tricky to make ground in the middle part of the races.
Indeed, and once you get straightened up, you've got 2.5 furlongs, 500 metres left to run. Can get messy on the inside. It's a balancing act between saving ground and maybe not getting stuck behind a horse come back in your lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you do have a good stretch, and the last furlong's on uphill a bit, so you do have a chance to make up some ground. But usually I always think you want to be fairly close up once you turn into the straight.
And that last furlong, the uphill run, you just got to really start to trip if it's an even gallop.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think it's a very fair mile and a half test, the Curragh, and hopefully the best horse will win on the day. And
looking at the rest of the race, of course, we've 8 races on Irish Derby Day. A lot of them are on a straight track, completely different test. It all depends where the stalls are. The draw and pace is key to that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the 5 and the 6 is fairly straight, but the 7 and the mile, they have a dog leg at about the 6 to the 5. Again, the draw is always important, but it's not necessarily where you think low numbers would definitely be at an advantage. It depends what horses are drawn around you and what the shape of the race is, really.
Indeed, and we've had a very dry time of things in run up to the Derby. Maybe that'll change on the day, but when it's dry like this, and if you get a tailwind on you, it can be sometimes hard to pick up the leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. It can favour speed. The clerk of the course here, though, Brendan Sheridan, he does a magnificent job in keeping the track in good shape, and he usually has it very safe ground, and horses do tend to let themselves down here, so you're always quite happy to bring any sort of horse to the Curragh. I think they usually give it their best shot.
You've won races all over the world. You've won derbies here, there and everywhere. The main one, of course, in Epsom is your home one, but you've had to win an Irish Derby.
Yeah, no, it's been frustrating. We've been close a couple of times, and sometimes things haven't gone right for us, but we'll try again this year, and please God it'll happen at some point.
And of course at Epsom, Auguste Rodin, he was fantastic, drying ground, recovering from that run to Guineas.
Yeah, he's always been a beautiful horse, and we've always held him in the highest regard. At Epsom he was always confident the whole way around. He was very comfortable, and he quickened up really well. I think his last 2 furlongs, I think it was the fastest any horse has ever ran in the Derby. He showed a real good turn of foot.
And when the eventual second kicked, were you ever worried, or were you always just biding your time? You felt you had him covered?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was the most fun I ever had in the Derby, because he felt in control the whole race, and the second, he found plenty when he asked him to go, but Auguste Rodin, he had the answers.
He did indeed. And as an individual, I was lucky enough to ride in Japan. He's a son of Deep Impact. He's fantastic bred. He looked really well in the ring, but he is a typical looker of a sire, if you like.
Yeah, he's be a similar shape and size to his father. I think he likes being ridden the same way as Deep Impact did. We've seen what he's done as a stallion. He's been phenomenal, and we like to think this horse has inherited a lot of the best points, and he's obviously out of a very good Galileo mare that won Group 1s at 2, 3 and 4, so he ticks a lot of boxes. He's a beautifully balanced horse, beautiful mover, and he's got a very good attitude. He wants to do it.
Sunday Silenced grandfather, of course, he was compared to him in lead up to the race at least.
Yeah, no, look, he's very similar markings to his grandsire, and he was obviously a Kentucky Derby and Preakness winner, and that's where some of the speed comes from.
And on O'Brien, he's 30 years since he trained his first winner, his 9th Derby. What does he like to deal with? Your relationship it's grown over the years, it's been tremendously successful.
Yeah, look, I've been very fortunate to ride for Aidan and Cornwall for I think since 08 or 09 I first had my first rides for them, so I've always learnt so much riding for them, and Aidan's always looked after me super, and very fortunate to be riding for the people that I do ride for.
Indeed, and the belief he instilled in the horse to you pre-Epsom and Auguste Rodin after that blip in the Guineas.
Yeah, well, look, when you go out riding for Aidan, you always think you're going to win, because the horse has been prepared and the pedigree's there, and but every race you ride for him, the horse is there to win, and we expect it to win. So you have to go out there with the mentality, thinking that it will win, and we're lucky that obviously can't happen all the time, but we're lucky that we can go out there with confidence and expecting a big run. And
you've ridden all over the world, Australia, of course, we won Melbourne Cups, Hong Kong, Japan, Ireland. You're quite a regular visitor through that association with Aidan. The difference of the cultures of the racing communities, it's real knowledge of the horse here, I suppose, I describe Ireland as having over a lot of nations, perhaps maybe at ground level at least.
Yeah, I mean, when you come racing in Ireland, you always tend to see the same sort of faces, really, and they're very loyal to their sport. They come to all the meetings, and in Ireland, everyone knows someone with a horse, really, I think, and has an understanding of the animal. That it's closer to their way of life, I suppose. People have been brought up around horses, so they understand them very well. And look, riding in Ireland, it's probably near the home of horse racing, really. Being closest to the culture.
One of the biggest innovations in world racing has been the World Pool. It's been a huge success in the UK. We've had an Irish Champions Weekend at Leopardstown. First time it's been at the Curragh for Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby Day.
Yeah, I think it's been very helpful to British racing over the last few years. Obviously, and it's putting racing out there on the global stage, really, isn't it? And it's great that people from around the world can bet into these pools, and it's great that Ireland's getting another day now, and hopefully when people become more familiar with it and kind of like have a bit of understanding of the product, hopefully we can grow it and it can continue to improve.